Survivor and slog through the nadir. Then season 40's awesomeness will make you wanna cheer. We're all just so excited to watch these winners play. But we're still lazy, so this podcast comes out on Friday. John will make some dumb jokes, and he likes to yell and scream. But now we're watching 20 winners play, and it feels like a dream. We'll spend the whole time freaking out and judging the best move. And anything that Tony does, you know that we'll approve. It's the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. Winners at War!
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am John. My co-host is once again Andy, and we are talking Winners at War, which might have just denied us the chance at having 4 members of the Villains tribe from Heroes vs. Villains reunited. This is because life isn't fair and everything sucks and we can't have nice things. Andy, cheer me up.
Rob's still in the game. Does that work for you?
I mean, hey, he's not my favorite, but honestly, he is one of the people I'm enjoying the most this season, so that helps.
Kim dodged a bullet. Her name came up. What if it was Kim?
I mean, that also would have hurt, so...
Tyson's gotta be the odds-on favorite to come back from Edge of Extinction.
I mean, of the current options, I mean, it's like him or Natalie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. I mean, it's not just that we lost somebody that we really enjoy, probably your favorite player out there. It's that, once again, they tease the other option.
It's not fair. I mean, like, you know, you've talked about the situation where this really forces you in the moment to rank your favorites. Like, this isn't a contest. This is, do you want bad thing or good thing to happen? I chose good thing. The show gave me bad thing. That's not what I want from this television program.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, this week's contrast was even more stark than last week's, because, like, Ethan was somebody, like, that was quickly being beloved, but not somebody, you know, I've been a fan of forever. And, like, you know, Adam obviously is somebody that, you know, we're good to lose any time, but, like, I feel like he's brought some entertainment to this season, if only through his own, you know, failings and such. Tyson is somebody, you know, I'd say you like a lot more than Ethan. I also like, I enjoy the entertainment he brings on television. And Nick is like literally nothing.
Yes.
He is bringing nothing to this season. Some of it's not through his own fault. They're like not showing him at all, but it's just like, and of course he was somebody that we weren't excited to have in the first place. So like, man, it's there, but just keep teasing it. Like, it's not just that they're teasing that like maybe your favorite won't get voted out. They're also teasing, but instead, it could be somebody that would make you so happy.
Exactly. Like, eliminate one of the few options in this season that you would hate to see win. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, instead, how about I stab you in the heart and we send Tyson home, one of your favorite winners ever.
Are you still enjoying this stuff?
You know what? I'm gonna regain my composure because I am the captain of this hype boat and I will go down with the fucking ship. I just have to keep reminding myself, like, we lost Tyson very early in Heroes vs. Villains. That was the greatest season ever. Tyson went home 6th. He's going home 5th here. I am not loving the weird redemptive arc thing that we got for Adam mixed into an episode where I also lost Tyson. But I'm gonna try to keep my optimism meter high, although admittedly, this one made it a lot tougher. Because as we covered in the preseason podcast, Tyson was the winner in the very first season that we were podcasting about. And it brought me such joy because he was a huge favorite of mine at the time. So I have lots of fond memories of that season and of Tyson. So getting to experience Tyson again was so potentially great. And now I'm being robbed of it.
Yeah, I'll say, like, I'm still enjoying this season. Like, even now that we've taken a couple of bad beats 2 weeks in a row, yeah, there's still a lot to work with. And again, it really must be reminded, we have not yet lost Tyson. To the point where, you know, one of the episode highlights was him after he got voted out. Wow, you guys sure got a lot of firewood here.
That's a great line.
I mean, he didn't even know that he was cracking a joke at the time.
Right.
But it was a great kicker. Yeah, no, I mean, the season's still fun. There's still many possibilities of good things happening. It's just, Come on, man. We need some of these duds out of here, yo.
Yeah.
Why did I just say yo? I am a 42-year-old dad.
It showed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably some things that need to take place in the near future to really right the ship here. And I think just a few minor things could almost guarantee us a minimum top 5 season.
So I think a bit related to that is my next question. Did you believe for a minute that Sandra was going to work with Tyson?
Yeah, when they show the confessional of Sandra saying, like, you know, I'm not emotional or whatever that was, I'm like, yes, this rings very true. If there's one thing I know about Sandra, it is that she is calm and rational at all times. Never once does this woman engage in spite or bitter hatred. No. She is analytical Sandra. That's what we calls her.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair to her, she will set aside the rage that and disgust that she feels for other people and work with them if that's what she needs to do. The problem was it wasn't what she needed to do. You know, she has runway, she has time here to, get the revenge that she enjoys so much. And frankly, like, I mean, we all know this, the detractors will use this against her. She never stopped trying to get revenge in her previous seasons either. It's just, once the rubber hit the road, she was like, okay, I guess I'll, not do it this week. Whereas for this, it was all about her. This doesn't happen unless Sandra agrees to the logic being presented. And, I guess I had a sliver. They did at least throw in that one confessional where it seemed like she was finally listening to the argument. And I was also like, well, if the target's Nick, he has been invisible. Maybe that's what's going on here. But no, I didn't think she wasn't going to vote for Tyson.
I mean, she is a ball of spite. And I mean, we love her for that. It makes for good TV a whole lot of times. But I think I said last week, Sandra is the one star here that is threatening my other rooting interests for this season. And I think this show, or this episode, really proved that, because Tony and Sarah and Kim were all good on a plan to keep Tyson. Like, what a beautiful alliance that would have been. They could have, well, I mean, theoretically, they're bringing Sandra into that. I don't know how long term that would have been, but that foursome as an alliance would have been great. I was gung-ho about that as a possibility, but I felt doomed even watching it. Like, I knew what we were heading for.
Yeah, and it's tough because, Sandra, again, is one of my favorite players of all time. And look, like, if this works out for her, then great. Slay everybody and win again, that would be insane. But it's just like, she is the biggest obstacle for our collective goals of, continued interest and, rooting interest through longer of the season, because she's just not going to do it. She is more worried about the people on her level than the people not. And that was clear from the preseason. It was clear to Rob when he wasn't telling her that he was going to return. Apparently she talked a lot about this stuff. And yeah, it was clear last night. And, so it was like, yeah, will she do it? I was like trying to convince myself, like, hey, she voted with Russell sometimes. She voted with Fair Play. But it's like, ultimately, maybe just Tyson was doomed and there really wasn't anything to upset it. What I did like, from what he was doing is he needed to not be the person trying to propose this plan to everybody, right. Especially not the person to propose it to Sandra. Now, I don't think he's aware of how Sandra's onto him.
Exactly.
But I think what he needed to do is talk like he did. Talk to Sarah, and then you got to let Sarah do this. Because, by him, like, pushing, and he was, like, telling to everybody, like, he was telling Yule and all of this, that it was Nick. That just reinforced people's idea that Tyson had to go.
Right. The thing is, if he found one receptive audience, that's great. Like, he was potentially the best messenger to relay that message to Tony and Sarah. Fine. And probably even Kim. He should also know he's not the best messenger to relay that to people like Sandra and Yule. Maybe he doesn't. I mean, we only see what we see. Maybe he felt like he had a great working relationship or friendship or whatever with those people, I don't know that you would think you were Sandra's strongest ally, especially after Sandra was totally laughing about the whole Poker Alliance thing. I believe Tyson witnessed that, but
yeah,
you know, you kind of have to massage that relationship a little bit.
Yeah, like, you can't be the person telling, like, Yul and Wendell who the target is. Like, it didn't feel like Tyson was operating under the idea that he was in trouble. And that, like, this is what he needed to do to scramble to save himself. Seemed like he was acting, and again, some of this might have just been edited or whatever, but, like, we saw him approach people, so it's not a complete invention. Like, he was a deciding factor. Like, he was, part of the group that got to, plan this. And it's like, nah, man, you gotta like lay low. Like, you absolutely have to fight for yourself. But I feel like he had a very receptive audience with Sarah in his first discussion. And yeah, Tony later, and that was a fine discussion too. But after that, it's tough. But you got to let other people make that argument and let them understand who they can work with and who not. Because like Tony and Sarah weren't going to Yul and Wendell with this.
I mean, yeah, Tony went and talked to Sandra, so clearly that was part of the plan, but, Tyson probably needed to stay out of that charm offensive and let Tony handle it.
Yes.
Because I think Tony had the better in with Sandra, even though his pitch did pretty much fall on deaf ears. I mean, I think Sandra tried to act as though she would entertain the idea to some degree, but for the most part, I think Tony was pretty clear, like, okay, you're not going to go for this, are you?
Yeah. And, Sandra's an old pro. She knows what Survivor needs. So when she's giving that confessional, she might not have believed it in a second. She's like, you might, maybe at the end was like, okay, you got what you need? Okay, let's go.
Killer Sandra impression, by the way. Spot on.
Thank you. It was a good plan for Sandra, right? Like, she is a target. Now, I think she's actually found a way in that she is not. I don't think Tyson was wrong. She's not viewed at the same, obviously not viewed at the same level as him, but I don't think she's viewed at the same level as Tony or I think even Kim. And some of that is just because, people know once the challenges start happening, there will be opportunities. So as long as you don't let Sandra skate through, you should have a chance to get her. But you need protection too. I don't know if any of these people will offer it to you. Like, frankly, if your idea, your Sandra, your idea, as it should be, is, make them merge and then they start going after bigger physical targets, you should have more of them. Tyson could be a shield for you. But she's won twice by pursuing her id, and that id is anger. So it's hard to argue. But, like, what about the others? Was this the right move for Sarah, Tony, and Kim? And by this, was this the right move of voting out Tyson? The move that they actually made.
Right.
Was that the right move for them?
It's fine. There was, I think Brad suggested that, if Sarah's really gung-ho on this, she does have a vote steal. Probably too early to play the vote steal. However, it is usable in so few situations. Like, it's the odds of you successfully using it, because it has to be like razor thin margins, essentially.
Yeah.
So if she really wanted to keep Tyson, this would have been one of the few situations where it could have worked. My guess then is that they didn't view it worth, or at least Sarah. Tony probably knows about the vote steal anyway, but at least Sarah didn't view it worth risking her vote steal for.
Yeah, and I don't think it was. Not just with timing, but I think the other secondary consideration to all of this was what happens after the vote, right? So if you make this move against those other group, and against Sandra, because she's not in, now that you're leaving a lot of people that might be opposed to you right at a time when you have to feel like a swap is coming. So, like, and again, it might be worth pissing off 3 of them if you have Sandra on board. But if you don't, and you have to use this vote steal, and it's not that, now it's 4-3. Would be the math at this end? Yeah. Or actually, it would be 4-4.
4-4.
Yeah. And you don't know what people are going to end up. It's probably not worth saving Tyson, With Sandra, yes. Without Sandra, no.
Yeah, there is something to be said for not drawing the battle lines until you have to do so. Mm-hmm. So if you can ride along with the unanimous votes early on, it's not the worst idea. Live to fight another day. Basically anyone but me, as a famous survivor once said.
This very episode. I love why, like, Sandra just keeps bringing up, like, the greatest hits, and everybody's just laughing, right? She'll say that, and it's like, yeah, Sandra, we know. Or, she's sitting, and, obviously there's the reaction to that. Which, I mean, of course she's gonna sit. Like, it's not even selfish. It would be selfish for her to be like, no, one of you other superior athletes, you sit so I can prove something. Because, like, the call doesn't, like, they had to sit out Tony. Like, they don't have the dead weight that Sele has. So, yeah, of course Sandra's gonna sit out.
Yeah, I mean, who's the other option on there that you'd rather have Sandra in the challenge for? Like, it just makes sense. And you don't need to be a challenge beast to win this game, as demonstrated by several people, most notably Sandra twice. So, yeah, if she wants to keep sitting out, fine. It's not hurting her tribe any.
Oh man, that just reminds me. We just published an article about Sandra and her influence on the game, and we discussed this, but we never actually made the article. She also proved that you don't need to win challenges to win this game. And clearly other people have done that, but once somebody did it twice, I think that really locked it down, that this is not an important thing. Hey, what was up with Tyson giving his token to Nick at the end there?
Yeah, I had, because I am a Tyson fan, people were like, well, what the fuck? And that, to me, reflects everything that I've already known about Tyson for years. Tyson essentially gives no fucks.
Yes.
Especially having just been voted out. I think he was like, yeah, I don't fucking care. I know nothing about what this little token does. I'm giving it to eeny, meeny, miny, moe, this name. I don't think he put any thought into it whatsoever. I don't think this indicates he has some secretive friendship with Nick or anything like that. I think it was just like, fuck it, I just got voted out. I don't care.
Yeah, I think it probably amused him. Like, I was trying to get Nick. Yeah, sure. This is what you get. And, if you're amused, like his line, get something from your idol. I agree that I don't think there was a lot of deep thought into it. There are, like, things that you can bring up that, like, this could be a gameplay. Like, he doesn't give it to his friend Rob because he eventually wants to come back and beat Rob. Maybe. But I'm with you. I think that's just the example of Tyson's flippant attitude.
Yeah, and I believe it was actually Nick that mentioned earlier in the season that whoever figures out the fire token thing is going to have a huge advantage. I think that's correct, because that's true of most new game mechanics like idols and fire challenges and all these other sorts of things. The first one to find the exploit does have the edge, and Tyson had no interest in finding the exploit with the fire tokens. He was not remotely looking for it.
Nope, he would have rather eaten it. No, it's the weird thing. Like, why not? Again, that's not weird thing, isn't it? But it's like, if you don't care, you could have eaten something with that. But that's tougher, of course, in the tribe thing. Why buy something that you have to share? But also, like, yeah, he was probably like, I'll hang on to this in case something. And that's kind of what it's been so far. Shockingly, this fire token thing so far hasn't really been much of anything. Nobody's going to use it for anything but game advantages.
Right. I mean, especially once they realize that can be used for that. Of course you're going to hold back your tokens. You're not going to buy a fucking tarp when you think that you might be able to buy immunity somewhere down the line. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, Robin Parvati didn't even, like, buy, like, an advantage in the challenge, which probably would have helped, because I bet it would have been fewer buoys to knock down, or keys or whatever, which, that was something we'll talk about. But let's stay with the Call tribe. So I think a lot of reasons why Tyson really didn't have much of a chance, like I discussed a bit, like a way that might have worked, but I don't know if it really would have, because I don't think Sandra was changing her mind, was because Yule has been putting in work this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's aligned a bunch of seemingly disparate individuals that I wouldn't have thought would have united. But I think that's kind of the thing that they're uniting around, right? Like hey, we don't have a lot of connections elsewhere here. Why don't we form the connections amongst each other? But Yule has definitely been the pivot point for them, as far as we've seen, at least. He and Sophie seem pretty tight. As far as I'm aware, he's got some kind of pre-gaming with Nick. Did I read that somewhere? I don't remember.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Basically out of Nick's mouth, I believe. Yule was a little more, like, I know Nick or something, but
yeah, KJ
Nick
about
came
it.
right out and said,
sure. Yeah. That does sound exactly like their games, by the way. Nick totally willing to reveal it, Yule dancing around it. I don't know that in the long term, his little kumbaya, we're all friends thing will work, But I think in the early portion of the game, especially when you're winning so often, you're getting all these rewards. It's good for now. Like I said, the battle lines aren't yet drawn, so you don't have to get too fancy with your strategy. Just sit back, let it happen.
Yeah, but I think like the big reason why Tyson really didn't have the room to maneuver was because of what Yule did last week when he sold Tyson out to Sandra. And who knows, like Tyson might be talking like a bunch of different names of different targets because he just wants it to be anybody but him, right? But Yule did the exact right thing. And he told Sandra that, and that was it, man. Any counteroffensive Tyson wanted to make with Sandra at that point was dead because Yule had already outmaneuvered him.
Yeah, and that's all it took was putting in the word first with Sandra. I think generally, from my memory, anytime Sandra hears that someone is throwing her name out, she doesn't put much of a question to it. She's always like, oh, that asshole wants me voted out. I'm coming at them. Like, that's all it takes. It's the switch just gets flipped. I don't see her questioning those accusations very often.
Yeah, and I mean, it was right. So she's got good instincts.
He wasn't lying.
Another thing I really liked, Yule, when we saw this episode, is when Tyson did approach Yule. Tyson didn't even have to push for it. Like, Yule was right away, he's like, yeah, no, he doesn't really do a lot of camp, and he does, like, he already, like, anticipated what Tyson's argument for Nick. So it just seemed so natural that, oh yeah, Yule gets it, to the point where there was no point in questioning whether Yule was going for it. It's just like he was able to, lie by using the truth just really easily and really smoothly. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, I think Rob probably put in the better lie, although we'll get to that a little bit later. But Yule's been playing pretty well socially, keeping things close to the vest and forming nice working relationships. I don't know about deep bonds necessarily just yet. I do think that him and Sophie is a thing, which hopefully will come into play later because I like that pairing. But yeah, he's got a good, solid early game. I just want to see what happens when he has to play a little harder. I don't feel like this is not flexing Yule's muscles. I think he can bring a better game later on. I just want to see it. This is like an entry level, get the rust off, work his way back into survivor mode.
But the thing is, if he keeps putting in, time like this, outmaneuvering people before it happens, and just like when you talk with Yule, it just feels like it's a rational conversation that, like, okay, this guy gets it. This is somebody I could work with. Like, he might never have to, like, have the super hard work that, other people have because he's never in that hole, He has a bit of the cover that people, I think, are still assuming, oh, this guy played so long ago. He doesn't know Survivor. Turns out I think he's done his homework a bit. It's just like, it's not hard to understand why people just feel at ease and trusting when Yule speaks to them, because that's his tone of voice. He's never working from an emotional place. He's like, it feels like if you present Yule with a logical plan, he will listen and, in your mind, go for it. And I think that's what, we saw in the interaction with Tyson there.
I think that's exactly it. He just seems like, and history, if you know his, would indicate that he is that person that will reason out a problem with you. If you want to talk through a vote and the pros and cons, and he understands that it's best for him as well as you, he's the type of person that won't let emotion get involved, and he'll be like, yes, this makes sense for all of us. This is what we'll do, and we'll mean it. So having that reputation is probably of some benefit to him this season.
Yeah, and it was nice to see that he was able to use that while lying. Because he didn't do a whole lot of lying in Cook Island, right? Like, when he talked made the deal with Penner, he followed through, even though all he really needed was them to not vote for him. I guess, he was lying about whether they were going to put the votes on Penner or not, although maybe not in that moment. He made the deal with, Adam and Candace to get rid of Penner then. And that might have won him the season, because I think that's what ended up getting one of the votes. Yeah, and it's just, so it's good to see him working that way. And like what you said, it's like, these are good working relationships, maybe not deep bonds. That can be a really good asset.
Yes.
Because then, people often feel much more burned by those deep bonds than the working relationships.
Absolutely. I'm impressed with his gameplay. I think from having watched some of the pregame interviews, people thought sort of what you suggested. I think even Rob said like, Yule doesn't know anyone. He hasn't played this game in forever. He's someone that will need someone like me out here. I think Yule has proven he really doesn't. But the fact that other people would think that about him does work to his benefit because they're going to underestimate him, which he can exploit.
Yeah, he doesn't seem scary. We're talking like, there's alliance of the big threats and all of that. And if it's not going to work, it's because another big threat and another big star in our minds is Yule. And he's the one running things, actually. And he's the one, using the people that we might not feel strongly about. Now, one of those people heading into the season was Sarah. I'm not sure she is still one of those people we don't feel strongly about.
I actually, as this episode was going on, sent a DM to our buddy Matt and was like...
I don't think we're supposed to talk about that stuff here.
No, this one was a purely PG DM that I sent him. And I was saying, am I crazy? Is Sarah having like a breakout episode or is it just me? Because the past 2 weeks, I have really enjoyed what we've gotten from Sarah. Not from a gameplay perspective, but from an entertainment perspective, which is not something I ever expected to say about Sarah, having watched both Cagayan and Game Changers. I think she is, she's aware of what her reception was from her Game Changers win and Cagayan. And B, I think she's realized that she works best on television when she plays off of somebody. And it may be just that she didn't have the opportunity to do that in Game Changers, which was the longest run she's had. But man, this season, the stuff with Tony last week, the ridiculous spy stuff and rubbing ash all over her face, spitting things and Cops R Us, that was great. This week, her and Tyson being BFFs, amazing stuff. I loved the hell out of it. And then we get to Tribal Council, and she's like doing the whole aw shucks when Kim's talking about playing with these legends. Like that's some A+ comedy. Like she seemed genuinely charming in a way that I never expected from Sarah.
Yeah, she's been delightful.
Yes.
I think delightful is the word. And yeah, obviously, she's bouncing off Tony, she's bouncing off Tyson, but she's like holding her own in those interactions. Like she was funny when dealing with Tyson, not just allowing Tyson to be funny. And like, I've seen some of it on Twitter and it's like, it must be a dry wit and it doesn't translate to TV. It is right now, and I think probably helps that Tyson also has kind of, has a very sarcastic sense of humor and it's bouncing off. I think another one you started to hit on this is, Game Changers was not a fun season.
No.
And that's not just true for us at home. Like the people who have left Game Changers almost to a person was like, my last season was far more fun than this one. It was a slog and again, it's not just because of the one tribal council. It just seemed like, I think maybe the title or whatever, like there was just all this pressure and nobody was having fun out there. And the people that might have been able to keep it fun were taken out early. In that environment, I guess bouncing off of Troyzan and Brad Culpepper isn't really going to bring a lot of strength for Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, she's having fun and it's a bunch of other people that are ready to have fun too.
It could just be the thing where, she is entertaining and charming and all that. She just needs that amplifier around. I mean, there are certainly groups that I've been in where I'm like, oh man, I just can't get the interaction level going. But there's also another group you'll go into and you'll be like, oh, I click so well with these people. Yes, this is fun. We're joking around. We're having fun. We're laughing. Maybe this is just Sarah's crowd. Like these are just Sarah's people and she has not been surrounded by her people before.
Yeah, and maybe she's not a soloist, right? Like, not everybody is, because, so far at her peak has been interacting with other people, whether it's the one-on-one scenes or, tribal council. Like, her confessionals are fine. They're not as monotone as before. They've gone to her a few times. I think, she has a lifetime of being able to explain the situation. Just, I think in Game Changers, it was a little depositional. But I'm guessing also playing as a winner, she's a little more relaxed than she was the last time. She doesn't really have anything to prove. She played one of the best games ever, and now this is house money. But yeah, no, like 2 episodes in a row, and like I'm on board. Like I like Sarah. I like this Sarah.
Yeah, that could be it too. It could just be the level of comfort that, you know what, I've already won this. These people respect me as a player. They know I'm good at this game. I'm just gonna have fun. Like this really is like the not really a farewell tour necessarily, because I don't know that she's the type that's like, this is it for me. But at the same time, like, the pressure does seem to be off her. She doesn't have to prove that she belongs here, and she can have a little more fun with it. I'm just enjoying that some of these people that I had such low expectations for are really putting in the work to turn around my opinion about them. Like we've talked about Ben, who has been, at the very least, more entertaining than in his previous season. And Michelle has not been great TV, but she's definitely improved. Like, I'm enjoying her more this season than I previously had. Nick and Adam remain crappy, but other than that, I think, you know, the floor has been raised, I should say.
Yeah, I had this later in the breakdown, but let's talk about it now since you brought it up, because it's a good transition. Yeah, I kind of agree with Michelle. I think I've enjoyed what we've gotten out of her more. And a big part of it is she's doing stuff.
Yes.
You know? That helps, you know. She is involved in decisions. She is, you know, we're seeing her interact, and I think we saw it. And actually, to contrast what we said about, you know, Sarah possibly feeling like a level of comfort, nothing to prove, that's not exactly true for Michelle, and we saw that in the scene this week.
Which I had mentioned in the preseason podcast. I think Michelle had a higher upside for this season because she knows how everyone perceived her last season. Yes, there are the crowd on Twitter or whatever other form of social media that are huge Michelle stans because she is the Edgic queen. There's also some very vocal detractors. We are much more very her. We never saw anything there, positive or negative, because it didn't seem like she was present in her last season. So I think she's aware of people like us that felt that way.
Not us specifically, by the way. We're not suggesting that she knows anything about us.
No, God, no. We never would. So I think she feels like she has something to prove, and that can work to our benefit as viewers. I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing for her, but thus far, it's been an improvement.
Yeah, and like after taking the first hit of not knowing that the vote was going for Natalie, like she's been active. She's been making decisions. Her and Jeremy are basically the kingmakers on Sele. Who knows what that'll be next week? As she plays on a tribe with her ex-boyfriend. But yeah, I thought it was, you know, her scene with Rob was really interesting. And part of it is we've seen this a few times. This season is not running away from the fact that, you know, things that happened before these players got on the beach will inform what's happening here. And that is such the right choice. And, you know, the series didn't have the comfort of that. It was, you know, such a departure. They wanted to act like everything you need to know is right here on the screen, on the page. I'm glad this season that they're throwing that away and letting the history of all of this, you know, weigh on it. And that's when you get like a Michelle talking to Rob about like, oh, you know, I feel some pressure because people didn't think I won that should have won this season. That helped, you know, show the thing that everybody brags about Michelle must be so amazing at because she talked about it in an interview or they saw it at a Survivor event and thus they really get it because, you know, it's a good way to judge people based on like how they are when they meet fans as opposed to playing. Again, maybe it is, but you saw her socially interacting with somebody who, you know, she had just opposed. Somebody who, you know, she was a literal child when he was playing Survivor. And you got a sense that, yeah, she can easily converse with people, which is not a skill everybody has, I must say.
Indeed.
It's possible this hour that you and I speak is like half of all the speaking I do in like of the week to people I'm not related to. But yeah, I like that. And of course, I love the way that Rob handled it.
I enjoyed that too. Validation from a legend about your win is wonderful. It's a good move on Rob's part.
Yep.
It's also fucking true. Like, if you won, you were the deserving winner of that season. We've always said that, even though we didn't enjoy Michelle's win, we didn't enjoy the wins of some of these people. So he's giving her the correct answer, which is fuck all of them. You got the $1 million because everyone who actually played the game thought you should win, or not everyone, enough people who played the game thought you should win. And B, that's like a good bonding experience for them. And it's when you can get that kind of compliment from someone in that sort of position, like I think it helps more coming from someone like Rob. Like if Nick is sitting there saying to her like, oh man, screw the haters, I know you're a legend. It's like, okay, do you though, Nick? Because you're just Nick. When it comes from someone like Rob or Parvati, or the ones that everyone can identify are the actual legends of this game, I think that helps. I mean, it's like if Yule came to you and was like, man, you are brilliant, that means more than Ben coming to you and saying,
I mean, we saw it with Sophie, right?
Yes.
When, they're talking, she was like, Yule Kwan just said that about me.
Right, exactly. It matters more based on the status of the person giving the compliment.
And I think, he was being genuine in that moment, because if there's anybody in this world that thinks fuck what fans think about these things, it's Rob Mariano.
100%. And at the same time, I also think that he's probably heard those same sorts of things about his wife's win.
Yep. Which he has never once said anything, because, that would be very stupid for a husband to say anything but. It's like, no, I lost that. I didn't deserve to win. She did. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, I think he doesn't engage with the fan community very much, because who fucking cares? And so that was genuine life advice and validation from him. So it worked on a lot of levels, and I liked that interaction for both of them.
Yeah, and other than that, like, it didn't really play into the strategy of the episode. I like that we get moments like that. And just to reiterate, we have said a lot of non-positive things about Michelle on this show. We'll probably continue unless she keeps, doing what she's doing here. Never once, never will say she didn't deserve to win this season. The person who deserves to win the season is the person who wins the season. It's a very definable scoreboard in Survivor. Doesn't mean they're the best player of the season. It doesn't mean that, there aren't some winners that are better than others. But if you win, scoreboard, that's all that counts. Hey, speaking of scoreboards, turns out putting your shortest people in a jumping challenge is a not optimal game plan.
Explain.
I've heard this, and I don't know if I've ever seen it presented more clearly, that you can't teach height, and it was a tough watch. It was a tough view. I made this comparison on Twitter, and it made sense to, like, I don't know, 2-3 people, and that's all I really needed. But, like, they say they were really trying, like, the Houston Rockets model right now of, like, no big men. We're just going all smalls, and we're going to get this done. Now, the problem is, if you're going with that strategy, Adam Klein can't be your Russell Westbrook. I think they literally chose the 3 smallest people that were competing in that challenge, period. The only person I think in this season that might be smaller than those 3 is Sandra, who is sitting on the pine. Maybe Adam and Michelle are right neck and neck. I don't know. There was a scene where they seemed kind of eye to eye, but that was a tough look.
It really was. And I'm obviously not Adam's biggest fan, but even I was like, oh, come on, please just get this just to stop the embarrassment. Like, come on. I
was like, Parvati, can you, like, just give him a breath, give it a shot? You never know. Winds could shift. Can you use your buff? I don't know. I mean, it might have been a very important piece of clothing for her at the time. I don't know. But, it's like, what a bad, like, and I think what happened is they do this stuff all the time, right? Jump up and knock a thing down. And you see maybe one person miss it too. Like, it always seems within reach. So I think they drastically underestimated how important height was. And then the other part is, like, they don't have the options, man. The other tribe, Kim is both tall and light, They have enough people swimming, but still, I don't know if Denise is 5 feet tall. Like, she probably should have been in the water.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, in addition to the smaller height, that also generally implies shorter reach. So, unless you are just a jump out of the gym type, which I wouldn't say that any of them are, it's going to be a struggle for you. And I think you're probably right in that they thought like, well, sure, you might not be Michael Jordan out there with your massive vertical leap, but at the same time, you can probably make that tiny jump, right? So,
yeah.
Oops.
And like the thing bends down as you get closer to it, so you're already like going down. Yeah, no, it was tough. And so it was good on Adam, because honestly, I didn't think they were going to do it. I thought the other tribe was going to finish the puzzle before they ever got to that last piece, because of course they keep getting farther away. Instead, they really choked hard. Now, every team puzzle, it's easy to come back because you see the pieces laid out, at least until they kind of disassemble them all. That was a tough look.
That was rough because they pulled them all back. And the nice thing too is that they pointed out Nick has played this puzzle before and won it. So not a great look for Nick.
Yeah.
And yet he got to stay and Tyson went home. I'm still bitter.
Uh-huh. Some people were floating the idea they were throwing the challenge. I don't think that was it. I think they just sucked.
I did not get the vibe. And I threw out the theory that maybe Rob had been throwing challenges before. This did not look like anybody throwing a challenge. Also, Rob is definitely not trying to throw challenges now. This definitely feels like Rob going gung-ho, because if he was interested in throwing challenges before, this is my argument. If he was throwing challenges before, you saw him going at, half speed. In this one, he certainly turned it up to 11, right?
Yeah, it felt like they never made a wrong move on the puzzle. It was just bum, 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 bum,
right.
bum. So that was kind of cool. So we had Adam having a big moment at the challenge. We had Rob, finishing off strong. The better contrast was at camp between those two.
Yeah.
Because we see the fallout, and we see Adam just, flop sweat, just like what he would call a charm offensive. I don't know if there was any charm there.
It was pretty offensive.
Yeah, working so hard to gain back everybody's trust. And then Rob basically dismantled it with like 3 words or something.
So I am somehow I feel like it's my mission this season. Unintentional. I did not come into this season with this mission, but it is now my mission to out Rob fan you. Because, yes, Rob gives a confessional, tells us he's going to lie, which is good. More importantly, though, the way that he lies was so important and so well done. He doesn't make any fucking wild claims about what Adam said to him. He doesn't, give out any information that could be disproven. All he does is just walk up to Jeremy and says man, guys, he's essentially making the pitch, I want to work with you. I don't want you to think I'm working with Adam or there's any other side deals going on. But, guys, come on. Adam keeps coming to talk to me. What do you want me to do about how to handle this? Which, number one, puts them in a position of power, makes Jeremy and Michelle think hey, you guys are running this. I, Boston Rob, yield to your powerful decisions here. What should be done about this situation? And number two, it gives nothing. So that if Jeremy or Michelle go to confront Adam about what he's been talking about with Rob, Adam might panic and get all defensive and squirmy, and they'll just freak out and be oh, see, Rob was right. This kid's full of shit. Beautiful. Again, masterclass. And I love watching all this stuff. It's been freaking almost 20 seasons since we got to watch this man play. He is not dunking on the schmoes of Redemption Island. He is doing this against winners.
Yeah, and some people are oh, why didn't, Jeremy or Michelle, why'd they believe it so easily? Why didn't they confirm it? It's why wouldn't you believe it? All he's saying is, hey, that guy who for a fact was going around talking to people, he's still doing it. Everybody would believe that. It was, and especially, it was just so casual. He wasn't making any accusations. Contrast it with the way Tyson was kind of going after it. He wasn't doing any of that. It was just so economical. Again, Adam's out there, hauling all this wood and, oh man, I pooped my pants and all this, and Rob's just meh. What I liked best is that he called the shot to Adam. When they're trying to talk to Adam, he's just I can just say it anyway. He basically told Adam, I can just tell them that you were working with me.
Right.
And then he went out and did it.
Well, I thought it was important that it could just be the way the show was edited, but it seemed likely that Jeremy and Michelle had seen that Adam was just with Rob. It looked as though Rob was just coming very shortly after his conversation with Adam over to them. So they might have had some clue, like, hey, I haven't seen Rob, I haven't seen Adam. Oh, this tracks. They were just talking. Who knows what they were talking about, but they were just talking. And Rob gave no clues as to what they were discussing. Only said that Adam came to talk to him.
Yeah, no, it was a great scene, and hopefully, it portends, things that we want to happen in future weeks. So we got that scene at camp. Obviously, we got the fun Sarah stuff. We got the Rob and Michelle scene. But we don't get as much of camp because we have this other thing. That would be Edge of Extinction, where they are competing for tokens. What did you think of the Edge of Extinction segment this week?
So freaking long. It dragged. I mean, I get that we have to have the Edge of Extinction scenes every week. And generally, I haven't been complaining too much about them. But wow, this one was a bit of a slog. And I'm not here to see Ethan suffer. I already got to see that in Africa. Wasn't great then. It's not great now. And that fucking should have been Adam out there suffering. So it's even worse. So yeah, I'm not on board with sitting there watching poor cancer survivor Ethan nearly pass out. I don't need to see him overcome the odds for a fire token. I made a joke on Twitter of it, like, okay, these people need to form a union because this is clearly violating some kind of labor laws. You can't work for so little.
Hey, they all got a bump in pay this season. I'll say, yeah, in the moment, I'm like, if this show kills Ethan fucking Zahn over a goddamn token, that's it. But I'm actually going to take another take. I agree, obviously, that it went on long, but after a while, they did a good job communicating the difficulty of the task and what it was doing. And I enjoyed the payoff. Again, not just, the moment with Ethan. Obviously, that was the best part, where they walk up with Ethan. The best part, I guess, with Ethan survived.
Yes.
And then that. But even, you could see the toll it took on Natalie and Amber. I like that it was better than a treasure hunt that we've gotten in previous weeks. What I said last week, what I wanted, because we're still keeping Ethan around, is, I want to get a sense of him and his story. And this ended up being a way to do that. Now, it was completely artificial. You can definitely argue that this might have even been irresponsible, although all 4 people did it, apparently with hours to spare. So as arduous as it was, I guess it wasn't too arduous, as long as you have a doctor around. Ultimately, I didn't hate it, because we got to get some of these people. And what I want out of Edge of Extinction, it turns out, is the fire tokens. Again, nobody's spending them, so it's not that interesting. The ideas of who we're gonna throw things to the game to, that hasn't been all that interesting. In large part because they haven't been going to the people that I like as much as others. But the moments with the people by the end of that segment, and it would have, again, less would have been better. I felt it was a compelling segment for the people involved. So
I think the key takeaway from me from that segment, obviously they had the emotional boohoo tears from Natalie and Amber. Not to minimize, I get it probably really is emotional for them. That's just not generally what I care about. But the key takeaway from me came right at the end, where they talked about how they're all getting so close. They're all going through this experience together out there. And it just reminds me why Edge of Extinction is bad for the game. Because if someone's coming back, it's so clear that they're going to have people rooting for them, because all these people have had this massive bonding experience while everyone else has been busy playing the game. And it's just, I fear that we're going to get a repeat where an Edge of Extinction winner comes back and wins the season. Mm-hmm. I would totally understand that happening, because it's probably the most likely outcome if you let that person get to the final tribal council. And if, again, they set it up so that that person would have to survive essentially one vote, I could see it happening. And that would be shitty.
Yeah.
because it seems like the path of least resistance to a win. And I don't want this season to have a winner take the path of least resistance. I want it to be knockdown, drag out, king of the hill, queen of the hill. Someone emerges.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue after an episode of where, you know, the 4 people were pushed to the level of physical exertion that we haven't seen on this show since, Guatemala, is not necessarily the path of least resistance, but it's not the path that we want. You know, it's not what we've watched Survivor for. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the people on Edge, you know, they do a lot of, and this season, they're making sure they do a lot of stuff. And that's the stuff I care about. So, you know, I don't disagree at all that this to help, you know, a takeaway is this, yeah, this is why this thing can break the game. You know, maybe that's why they had somebody in the show say, if you win, you win. Because we'll see what the winner is.
Silencing more than just Michelle's haters?
Yes. But I'll just say, like, as a television moment, like, as part of the 42 minutes, I found parts of this scene, regardless of what it means for the game, I found some of it compelling as part of the overall mix. Especially because I don't think this week there was, like, a lot of complicated, like, strategy stuff. I kind of think, they probably decided pretty early that, like, if we go to Tribal Council, it's going to be Tyson. Yeah, obviously there's the character work, but, like, some of that also will get, like, thrown out and jumbled up because of the swap. So you could say I'd rather spend that time with the people in the game. It's like, well, I did. Those 4 people, you know, for better or worse, are still in the game. And I enjoyed spending that time with Ethan. I enjoyed, you know, what we got out of, Natalie and Amber, and Danny was also there.
But one thing that you just referenced, though, is the swap.
Yes.
Which we now know from the preview is coming next week. So it's time to shift back into the optimistic gears and ask you, what are you hoping for next week? Like, we like to end this show instead of with predictions this season. We're going for hopes. What are yours?
So I think a lot of people are assuming, and I think this is I think it's a reasonable bet. I agree with this idea. We don't have confirmation as far as I know that it will be a swap 3 tribes of 5.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, I want Parvati, Rob, and Kim to be on one tribe, and then I don't care who the other 2 people are. That's like my biggest hope is just those 3. I guess I do care a little bit. I don't want Sandra to be one of those 5 because I think we don't have confirmation on this either. But I think her idol should still be good for one more tribal council.
Oh, shit. I didn't think about that. Okay.
And I have this great fear that she'd use it to take out Rob or Parvati. Because they would,
yes.
Yeah. Like Rob said early in the game that he doesn't plan on working with Sandra, and I think we've seen every reason why. I think Rob made the exact right call
Good
on that,
read, buddy.
Other than not making a phone call. So, yeah, but imagine Rob, Parvati, and Kim, and then they throw, like, Nick and Adam on there. Like, that'd be amazing, right? Like, would they even try to win a challenge?
Oh, now, see, that's the week where I would say, you know, I think Rob might have been throwing this one.
I would get on board with that.
Yeah. See, I'd totally forgotten that Sandra's Idol might have one last week in it. Cause my hopes for next week were Rob, well, first of all, I wanted fucking Rob, Sandra, Tyson, and Parv all together for a villains reunion. But we're not gonna get that shit. Anyway. But failing that, yes, I wanted the same thing. I wanted Rob and Parvati and Kim. And then Sandra there, because I need Sandra gone. But shit, I hadn't thought about the possibility that Sandra could keep herself immune. And I don't think Rob would suspect Sandra could keep herself immune. So, yeah, that's maybe not ideal. Probably for the best if they get someone I'm totally cool with losing, like the 2 names that you mentioned. Michelle getting swapped with, gotta watch how I phrase that. Get swapped onto a tribe with Wendell. Meh. I mean, Wendell hasn't done anything for me this season.
No.
Which I guess Wendell has been a disappointment in that, like, I didn't expect a lot from him, but I expected more than this.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously a lot of that is just because, like, there hasn't been a lot of call. I think another thing is, like, Wendell is just, like, a chill bro.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of his vibe, and, like, that's cool, and it was appreciated on his season, but, like, now I'm far more interested in the more dynamic personalities. Like, his chillness isn't going to do enough for me.
Yeah, I think my fear is that when we get, if it's tribes of 5, you know, if we get a tribe that's all my rooting interests in one, you know, if you've got Rob and Parv and Kim and Yule and Tony, if that's your tribe of 5, they can never lose. I will never be more intently focused on challenges if that is a tribe. So I kind of need to have each tribe have someone that I'm totally okay with losing.
Yeah, so that's a big hope. But yeah, I mean, again, because the only worry, like, if Kim went with them but 2 Decals, does she try to still, like, work with the Decals? I don't think so. At that point, why try to fool them? You were like, you gotta vote. Yeah, just work Rob, Parvati, Kim, and, like, let's just run this thing for 2 weeks or however long.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the point where, you know, this season's done a very good job of bringing in the meta narrative of this show or the world outside the show. So Kim could be like, "Hey, remember that poker game that we played? Guess what came up?" And you know, then we see Kim and Rob laughing and bonding over that. And maybe Jeremy's on that tribe too. Who knows? But like, it could actually be the poker trio now that they've lost Tyson, all getting together. That could be fun as well.
I wonder who we'll see Sarah be funny with next week. Who can they put her with? I mean, it'd be cool if she just gets to stay with Tony, but I don't know. Maybe she'd have some fun energy with Ben or, Parvati.
I was just thinking, like, Sarah and Parvati might be a fun combo. Or, Ben would be another one. What if, like, Sarah and Denise have, like, some cool Iowa bonds going?
I kind of like the impression that I got from there that, like, Denise doesn't really hang out with Sarah at all. They're in Cedar Rapids. There's got to be, like, 200 people there?
Iowa is not the most populous state in the Union. And there happen to be 2 Survivor winners from there. What are the fucking odds? And yet, it does not seem like they're going out of their way to hang out with each other.
They're certainly not voting in the same primaries. All right. But yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. Like any swap, desperately nervous for the people I'm rooting for too. But, the nice thing, I believe Rhea in comments pointed this out, by winning this week, Sela guaranteed that they will not be in the minority in every tribe.
Oh, I didn't even thought about that. Yeah,
if it goes to 3.
I think part of it was that I wasn't entirely convinced that we were switching up to 3 tribes. I mean, I know the numbers would track that way. I wouldn't necessarily put it past them to be like, hey, we're going to do the whole thing where we sit one person out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah, again, we don't know if it's 3.
More than likely, yes, we're headed for 3 tribes.
All right, so you can hear us talking about that this time next week. Our website is www.purplerockpodcast.com. I know I don't always have to say the W's, but I need that time to remember what the rest of the words I'm going to say
I like that you have not remembered our podcast, and we've only been doing this, or our website, I'm sorry. We've only been doing this for like 5-6 years at this point.
How is that possible?
And yet everybody else says we're really good at branding. You, on the other hand, who actually work here, can't remember the name of our fucking website.
Well, I was locked out of it a couple weeks ago. Twitter site @PurpleRockPod. Purple Rock Andy.
I am Purple Rock John. Engaging with all the Bernie Bros this week.
Mistake.
It was.
You can subscribe to the very places, including YouTube, where we're going to try not to be so spoilery, because in years past, we would throw whatever picture we wanted from part of the episode, because we're like one of the last podcasts to post, and we figure if you haven't watched it, you can stay away from Twitter or, our website, but YouTube's a different beast, so I think it's fair enough that, we won't show you who was voted out in your stream on YouTube.
Yeah, let's just put up, hot pictures of, like, Parv or Yule or somebody every week.
Or let's just go back to putting up a picture of Joe every week. Everybody loved that so much.
That was a great gimmick. People loved that shit.
All right, so that's all for this week. Next week, stay tuned when they'll tease that somebody we don't like will go home, and instead it'll be somebody we love. So much fun!